Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 625 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Tuesday, April 15th, 2025, the first Tuesday of the year with no curling for yours truly. I have to adapt. Fortunately, tennis season is upon us, so it won't be that hard. And it looks like it's going to be a nice day at the Beaver Lodge here. We've got some clouds that look like cotton balls, a whole bunch of them. But between the little cracks between them, you can see some sunlight peering through. It's actually quite lovely as a visual. But mostly overcast sky with just a little bit of light shining through and a whole bunch of little, all the little spots between the clouds. It's actually, it's really lovely. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corbin Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca, or Psychic Tarot Canada. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
It's pretty good this morning so far, I'd say. Yesterday was not good. I only slept maybe 20 minutes the night before. So, yeah, I was a mess. I was also a zombie. There's no way I could have done a show yesterday. I was just like, wasn't even human. So I slept for a good chunk of the day and then got up. And yeah, it just wasn't a great day. Lola, I took her out to the outdoor rink and let her run around, because there was dogs in the dog park. And sure enough, she saw a squirrel and leapt over the boards and chased it.
Ooh.
Yeah, so she was out running around. Her leash was still on her. So there was an altercation with another dog and managed to get her, and nobody was hurt, thankfully. But let's just say 4-foot boards don't deter her.
Oh, my word.
And here's the thing.
She's so strong.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised she's never leapt over the fence at the dog park, because she can. It's only 6 feet. She can clear that. She can jump higher than that, and I've seen her do it. So I don't know. But yeah, the 4-foot hockey boards didn't deter her at all, and didn't get the squirrel, thankfully, and nobody got hurt in the end. But it was It was a stressful way to start the day, to say that the least, and the fact that I was, kind of a zombie at that point wasn't ideal. So, yeah.
Understood. Understandable.
So hopefully today will be a better day for me, both physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, all the Lees in there. Let's put all the Lees in there. Politically. Pornographically. No, that's not a thing. I'm just kidding.
Geographically.
No, I said pornographically. That was a joke. I'm kidding.
Oh, man.
Years ago, my mom says to me, she says, "You want to see my pornographic birthday card?" I go, "What? No, I don't want to see that." She goes, "No, here, look." She hands it to me, and it's Bullwinkle from Rocky and Bullwinkle. Says, "Here's your pornographic birthday card," and you open it up on the inside. It says, "All I need now is a pornograph to play it on."
Jesus.
Phonograph. Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. I'm like, "I don't want to see that." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that was pretty good, Mom. I got to admit, that was a good one. That was funny."
All right. A couple little tidbits before we get started. Because we very rarely have direct news from PEI, we do have a little bit today. So we have a little clip. It seems that um, citizens in Summerside are going to have more access to health care very soon.
Oh, let's get this up here. I'm trying to load it. It's took a second for some reason.
Right. Well, while you're loading it, I will have another healthcare sort of related thing. Well, not the healthcare related thing, but another tidbit, and then we can go back to that one. The territorial government of Nunavut is estimating that the wait list for homes up there is 3,000 people, and it has announced that it plans to build that many homes by 2030. PJ Akiaru has stated any homes by two. Sorry, let me see that. That is sorry, there's a typo in here. Oh, there we go. He said, Canada can't strengthen Arctic sovereignty without investing in the Arctic. I think Canadians are waking up to the reality that the North is a vital part of the country and that we are Canadian just as is any Canadian in southern Canada, which is really interesting to hear somebody refer to southern Canada. But it is true.
True, yeah.
We are the Southerners.
Winnipeg is south.
Right.
If you live in Nunavut or if you live in Iqaluit, Yellowknife is south.
Right. So just an announcement there is from because we again, whenever we have an opportunity to bring you some news from the north, that we do, and that is some pretty significant news. Planning to build 3,000 homes by 2030. And now, if we have the clip ready, Mr. Grizzly, we got some news for the good people of Summerside and Prince Edward Island.
Summerside's mayor is among the residents happy to hear the intensive care unit will reopen at the Prince County Hospital this summer. It's been closed for nearly 2 years. Now, PEI Health Minister Mark McLean says a 6th internal medicine physician has been hired, and that's what it will take to get the unit fully functional again.
You want to order the banner but not hang it up yet. Lots can happen in 4 months, so that sort of cautious optimism and keep moving in the right direction is a benefit for the community.
The medical director at the hospital says while the province is planning to reopen the unit in August, it will all depend on what staffing looks like at that time.
Being August would be awesome, and we're certainly wanting to push for that. But in reality, when we have the doctors with the competencies and the nurses with the competencies and the RTs with competencies, we'll be there.
Health PEI's CEO is confident the ICU will be up and running in the summer, though. She says the progressive care unit put in place has been providing intensive care in some situations, but she says the ICU plays an important role for all of PEI.
To me, it's incredibly important on a small rural island that we do have redundancy, that we have the opportunity for 2 locations to support each other should services be challenged in one area. And we've seen that where, for instance, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital has supported Prince County and vice versa.
McLean says Health PEI has also hired a nurse practitioner to support the unit, but still there's not enough critical care nurses. The province says it will rely on travel nurses for some coverage. The PEI Nurses Union says the province needs more permanent nurses.
We're less than half right now of what is required. And that is up slightly, I guess, from when the services decreased here last year and a half ago. But it's not, that would not be what we would need in order to maintain services in that department.
Health PEI says it's trying to recruit more permanent nurses and healthcare staff in general, including a new psychiatrist coming in July to the PCH.
McLean says the province has also been able to recruit one doctor from the U.S. Recently, the Canadian Medical Association urged the federal government to make it easier for U.S. physicians to practice in the country. McLean says that's a step the province already took back in 2023. Tony Davis,
Well, that's
2
good news.
years.
But 2 years, ouch.
Yeah.
That's,
So I don't know if they had brought in a new CEO of Health PEI, but whomever was able to get a sixth doctor there, and I don't know how many there were when they closed 2 years ago, but I assume that they probably have to get more than one of those doctors. But getting it to a place where there can be more reliable access, particularly to anything that's intensive care. Good job. We often say that the premiers are the problem, but when they fix the problems,
yeah, well,
give them credit.
Well done. Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
It's
Let's
2
keep it going.
years, though. 2 years.
2 years. 2 years.
There's what, 150,000 in PEI, I think.
That's something like that.
The
Even here,
population is in Charlottetown.
Yeah.
Which is the capital, right? But still, that would be the only place that has an emergency room. That's really bad.
Yeah, that is bad. And there's certain initiatives all over the place. Like you're right here in Kingston, where I am at. There's an initiative by the city to make sure that they call them orphan patients, but all of them are going to have a doctor, I think, by the end of 2025 or 2026. They've been really on a push to attract people and bring them in, and they're planning to make sure that all the backlog is cleared. I mean, I've been here for 10 years and I don't have one.
Really?
Yep. 10 years. So
not good.
Fingers crossed, man. All right. So Summerside. Way to go. Happy for you.
Just wanted to add you had made a comment at the beginning there about housing in Nunavut. If you want to watch a really good program that's both entertaining and informative with some tongue-in-cheek commentary, it's on both CBC and Netflix, North of North. If you've not seen it yet, give it a watch. It's really well done. It's a bit of a dramedy, but it's got some really funny moments. Just give it a watch. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
I'll leave it at that. I really have been enjoying it.
It's a co-production with APTN.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
and it's just really good. It's really, really good. I've been enjoying it, and it's one of those things where it's maybe giving exposure to a group of the population or a segment of the population that would possibly never have been exposed to before, because it's not like we've been drowning in Inuk culture or Inuk television programs or Inuk music. You know what I mean? It's like it's a culture that not a lot of Canadians are very familiar with, and this is a great way to learn a little bit while being entertained.
Yeah. I like that this is happening. I mean, I think on the day of our podcast, it was hockey night in Inuktitut.
Yes, it was.
So, and we, and when we know that we've reported on this also before, if we're expanding even broader, there's now a hockey night in Canada broadcast in Punjab and stuff. So, hey, again, when you're wondering what does the CBC serve, there you go.
You're not going to get that in the private sector. A private broadcaster won't do that. They just won't. They won't because they don't see enough money in it. But because the CBC is a public service, a public broadcaster, they're trying to reach as many Canadians as possible. Yeah. So it's currently available in 4 languages? English, French, Inuktitut, and Punjabi.
And then there's sometimes some Cree.
Yes, that's right. Yes, sometimes. In Winnipeg, I think they started doing. I think that's where it first started. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it's really trying to unite people at the same time, right? And it was Kelly Rudy who came up with the idea to do it in Punjabi. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Is it Hindi? Is it
no,
Hindi?
Punjabi.
It's Punjabi.
Yeah, I said Punjab earlier. Punjab is not the language.
No, it's not the language, yeah.
Punjabi, yeah.
It was his idea because he had a friend who was a member of that community and said, I'd really like to be able to get my grandparents involved in hockey. They're interested, but their language skills aren't there.
Right.
And it was a suggestion of his, and they said, well, let's give this a go. And it's been going for a number of years now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's
large
again,
community, right?
You can replicate that with every culture, right?
Yeah, you can. You absolutely can. Well, I'd like to see, honestly, maybe perhaps a Mandarin version at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chinese population, Chinese diaspora in Toronto alone is 1.2 million, I think.
Yeah.
In the GTA, I don't mean just proper Toronto, but in the GTA, so that's a very large segment of the population in one city that's being underserved.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, sure, their kids will speak English and probably French as well, but how do you get families together and get generational involvement in the sport and help?
But that's one of those things, right? Like, had it been there all along, right? When people arrive, there's already something that they can do to connect with the country and start connecting with other people as they're picking up some English, and
well, and that's just it. You're connecting with a new country, a new culture, new things. So why don't we make it easier for you to do that?
And I mean, hockey's like the weather, right? We talk about we talk about three things: hockey, weather, and construction seasons.
Yes,
right? So,
that's true.
So it's one of those basic entry things. If you know a little bit about hockey, you can talk to pretty much, well, not everyone, because there's a lot of us that do not watch hockey.
No,
but Canadians. But you can, over the course of a day, it would be very statistically difficult to miss at some point.
Correct.
Right.
No matter where you are in the workplace, having lunch at a fast food joint, having coffee with a colleague or a group of friends, or maybe you're out, I don't know, whatever, skiing or playing some tennis, or somebody somewhere is going to be talking about hockey. It's just that simple. Somebody will be talking about hockey because that's the lifeblood of this country. Now, there's many people who have no interest in it, but they move here. And it's something new and foreign. And sometimes they go, wow, this is fascinating, get involved. Other times they could care less, but their children love it because all their friends at school are playing. So the kids get involved, and that's how the parents get involved. It starts at the minor hockey, grassroots level. Yep. And I just think it's a great idea. I really do. Yep. Now, you'll have somebody, I don't want my tax dollars going towards that. It's like, shut up. Shut up. You're a miserable prick. I mean, really?
I know. The hockey is meant to be shared, man. The hockey is meant to be shared.
If you can play, you can play. It's meant to be shared amongst everybody. We want to grow the sport around the world. We've been doing a pretty good job of it.
Yep.
Do you realize that in the mountains in India and Pakistan, they have outdoor rinks and they play hockey all winter long?
Yep. Yeah, I think we showed a clip there. I think Halo Recognizer was there and donated a whole bunch of equipment and whatnot so that they could, improve their skills and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, absolutely. And we're watching the World Women's Hockey Championships going on, right? And we see the matches that we see on TV, but there are a whole bunch of other matches going on, right? The lower tiers, people trying to move up, right? There's something like 6 or 7 tiers. There's like, well, this is like tier 1, and then there's 1A and 1B, and then 2A and 2B and C, and they're all having their own tournaments, and the team that finishes on top goes up, and the team that finishes on the bottom goes down a layer, And in this the 10 teams that are playing right now, right, the 2 teams that finish lowest go down. They're not guaranteed to play.
Right.
In the World Championship next year. They're going to have to fight for, and the team, well, they won't be playing next year. And the teams that won the one level down, the 2 teams are going to come up. Well, they'll be in it next year. So there's all this, and when you look at the list of countries that are playing,
oh yes,
Mexico, Chinese Taipei, South Africa, it's like, but they have a hockey team. Israel, yeah. They do.
Well, when I hear folks say, well, look, the Women's World Cup is inconsequential because it's only ever won by Canada or the U.S., that's just not fair. It's not right. We should just abandon this altogether. I'm like, really? So please explain to me why Canada never abandoned trying to send a men's soccer team to the World Cup, because we've only ever been there twice. And the first time was by default because somebody else was disqualified for something they did. So we just kind of fell into it. Didn't score a goal, was inconsequential. But we kept fielding a team each year. Is it because it was men that it's okay to do that, even though we know only 6 countries have ever won the World Cup? You know that, right? Only 6.
Right.
But it's the world's biggest sport, and it's the World Cup. But only 6 countries have won it, and
Right.
some multiple times. Germany, I think, has the most with 5, or is it Brazil? No, Brazil has 1 less than Germany. But it's, when they say that, it's like, yeah, it takes time for the sport to grow. Our women's soccer team has been doing quite well on the world stage for a number of years. I mean, they've won the gold medal in the Olympics, whereas the men's team is like non-existent for the most part. But
Yeah.
we wouldn't abandon the men's team. They just want to abandon the women's sport.
Yeah. It was 5 wins for Brazil and 4 for Germany and Italy.
Okay, yeah. So I knew it was between the two of them. I
Yeah.
couldn't remember.
All right. Yeah. So, it's just so much, like I said, it's so much bigger. The tournament, there's what you see on TV, and then there's everything else that's going on underneath, and when you're talking about that, right? Like, why are we doing that? Well, did we ever believe that there would come a time that we'd be watching a world women's hockey tournament in which, in the top tier of the world, we'd be watching Hungary
Mhm.
and Japan,
Yeah.
right?
And Japan's been making major strides since they hosted the Olympics back in 98.
Absolutely.
98?
Right? They're yeah, Germany, right? It's like, remember when we were surprised all those years ago when the Germans actually beat the Canadian men?
Mm-hmm.
Once it's like, Germany, when did they learn how to play hockey? We were all saying, right?
Well, you remember there's a lot of, because Canada used to have 2 bases in Germany. There were hockey leagues formed back in the 50s and 60s, and they've always been there. Have they been a hyper-competitive team? No, but they play,
But the
and
love
they're
of the game,
good.
you plant the seed.
Well, like France, there's hockey in France, believe it or not. And remember,
Yeah.
there was a goaltender who played for the Montreal Canadiens, Cristobal Huet, who
Mhm.
was from France.
Yep.
He made it to the highest level of hockey in the world,
Yeah.
playing for probably, the most decorated hockey team in the world, in the
Mhm.
National Hockey League, I should say, not globally, but in the world, the Montreal Canadiens. So, like it or not, 24 Stanley Cups.
Yeah. I remember the Albertville Olympics. Like, the French had their jerseys were really cool.
Mm.
But they got to play because they were the host, right?
Yeah.
So they looked good doing it.
Well, I
It
would
matters.
expect that. Well, and it ignites a spark in people.
Yeah, exactly. All right. On to the other stuff, kits and cubs. As we do every morning, I'm going to take a quick little look at the polls for you.
While you're doing that, I'm going to get a coffee.
Absolutely. A little message to Kit Joanne, if you happen to be watching. Unfortunately, the gift for Polling Canada did not take the second time. I clicked on whatever was there, and nothing happened. So I'm not quite sure. So unfortunately, I don't have any numbers from Polling Canada for you today, kits and cubs, but I do have the 338 Canada aggregator, and I do have the CBC poll tracker. According to 338 Canada, the gap now between the two parties has narrowed to 5, with Manitoba again flipping to 7-6 Conservative. There's a seat there. I would have to dig deeper at some point to figure out which is the one that keeps flipping back and forth. So again, the little bit of narrowing, again, tiny bit of narrowing. A lot of people are making a big deal of this in the media, but it's a little bit of narrowing. Kind of said that there might be some narrowing coming into the debates in any case, which is a pretty natural phenomenon during an election period. We have Liberal seats at 190, Conservative seats at 124. The Bloc rising for the last little bit. Let's say the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. So they're at 20. The NDP at 7 and the Greens at 2 on the 338 model here. And that's with the odds of winning pretty much still the same thing, 99% for the Liberals. So the odds of winning the most seats here. With regard to the poll tracker from CBC, not much change again. The Liberals and the Conservatives changed in the same amounts in the same direction, so the gap between them is exactly stable. The New Democrats picked up half a point, but that's about it. According to this one, we have the Liberals at 198, Conservatives at 123, the Bloc at 16, New Democrats at 5, and Greens at 1. So again, still pretty solid for the Liberals at the moment. Of course, the debates are coming, and in some cases, there seems to be some debate out there about how much they're going to be able to sway people. I think, from what I'm seeing, is that even though support is solid for the Liberals, again, support has not dropped from the Conservatives. And to a certain extent, the question becomes is how strong or how soft is that level of support for the Liberals? And would it take, one or two flubs for enough people, NDP supporters, traditional NDP supporters, or Bloc Québécois supporters to go, wow, that's it, throw their hands up in the air and create a minority situation or a situation for the Conservatives to come up the middle and win with vote splits. So that's basically what's going on. On the other side of the ledger, however, whatever mistakes there are, you still have Donald Trump. And we'll have a little bit on him later. But the tariff thing is not going away because he's talking about a whole bunch of other ones now. And of course, we have lumber tariffs coming, and there's still confusion about what is flip back on the on the allegedly reciprocal tariffs, and then pull back on the anything computers and microchips and electronics from China. And now you have other people that are lining up as well. So
That's because he's got guys like Tony Dell and Tim Cook saying, you're going to tank our businesses, right?
Yeah,
Because Dell Computers and Apple, I mean, come on.
So
something I wanted to mention here about the tariffs from China. You know how the China struck back first with 34%?
Yeah.
Somebody thought, why not 35? Why 34? 34 felony counts. They were trolling him.
Geez.
They were trolling him.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
I'm like, what? Oh yeah. Literally, there's an American who lives in Shanghai who was like, why 34? And asked around, and yeah, they're trolling him. 34 felony counts. That's why. I'm like, oh my God.
Interesting. All right.
I never thought I'd be cheering for China.
I do. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So the last little tidbit about the polls, and then we'll actually get more into the tariff thing here, is that for those who are wondering whether or not engagement is up, according to Abacus polling, they tested for this, and they said that Canadians definitely seem to be much more interested in this campaign than the last two. When asked, are you going to vote, 68% of adults said that they would, and for those, but there's a demographic split for those under 30, that's just under half who say they will, and for those who are over 60, that rises to 8 in 10 and a little higher. So there you go. Tariffs, a little check in on that. I did not think of that, Mr. Grizzly, and I think that was actually, China's definitely trolling.
Well, I mean, with all the AI videos they've been releasing, right? There was one where they had, was it Trump, Elon Musk, JD Vance, and I'm not sure who else, making Nike running shoes, stitching them together by hand.
Trolling.
Yeah, they're really trolling them. Yeah, they really are. And look, again, like, we have our issues with the Chinese Communist government for a myriad of reasons, and the fact that we're tied to them for another 25 years, but they're doing the right thing in a trade war. You just fight fire with fire until the other guy backs down.
Yep. So, yesterday when I said that China said any future increases in tariffs will be ignored, well, it seems the United States did it anyway. despite that, because at last check, the score is China tariffs 124%, USA 145. So now Donald Trump has his one extra allegedly reciprocal retaliation, but it's not because he swung first. So he wants to swing first and he wants to swing last. And now he can say, well, China didn't raise to match it, so I won. You won, but the tariffs at 124% to 145, and you're shoveling backwards on the 124 on electronics because, well, Americans buy a lot of electronics, right? And just like getting in the way of their love of tasty, spongy, cakey things by rising the price of eggs, get in the way of their Netflix and chill time by making the cost of a computer go up by 125%, 145% now, probably would not go over very well and would be noticed very quickly. So as he's back shoveling on that, however, can't seem to have the impression that he blinked. So he's saying that there are no exemptions for this, even though the paperwork and all the communications collateral that they put out announcing the reprieve on that said specifically exemption on it. So you could see how people are confused.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And of course, we have those semiconductor and chips tariffs because they're a strategic sector for national security. So he just imposed 125, removed them, but there may be more coming for chips and semiconductors specifically. Confused yet?
Little.
Yeah. And while he's talking about that, well, he just like casually mentioned, oh, by the way, there's stuff on pharmaceuticals coming too. That's another strategic sector. So, oh, okay.
It's just never going to end with this guy. And he'll levy the tariffs and then put a 90-day pause on them. So he'll watch the market dip, 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 dip. Now's a great time to buy. All of his wealthy billionaire friends will go out and make millions and billions of dollars. Like I think it was Charles Schwab made $2.5 billion. And he bragged about it in the Oval Office. He made $2.5 billion. He made $900 million. You fleece the American people by manipulating the market for your own benefit. That's how people go to prison.
Yeah.
But see, what he'll do, he'll just pardon himself, right?
Well, yes. Yes. So now that there's been exemptions for electronics for China, well, the soybean farmers have gotten in line.
Mm-hmm.
Asking for specific exemption because China is the largest buyer of U.S. soybeans. 50% of the soybeans produced in the United States are exported, and China counts for 52% of that, which is about 27% of the total. Basically, essentially every fourth row of a soybean field goes to China.
Wow.
And the soybean farmers already know that tariffs are not great because the last time IQ 47 told this was just a few years ago. Well, at that time, it was 1 out of every 3 rows that went to China. So when the dust settled, farmers lost about 9% of all U.S. exports to China, as it had been replaced by competitors in South America, mainly Brazil, with China even investing in major infrastructure over there, such as the building of ports, rail, and roads to ensure that they would get their supply, which meant that market share is displaced forever. That's data from the American Soybean Association.
Wow.
Then car manufacturers started to line up with regard to car parts because the United States imposed those tariffs on all car parts, which Canada wisely in its counter-retaliatory tariffs did not because those car parts change. You take the steel from here and you send it, that's mined here, and then you send it somewhere to make a sort of the shape of a part, and then that one goes to the United States, and then they perfect that part, and then it gets put into something that comes up to Canada that gets to put into something else, and there we go. That part
It goes to Mexico, and yeah,
right. So Canada did not include those in the counter tariffs because that would not be helpful.
Well,
François Blanchet actually noted it actually once in an interview and said that at least there's that.
Well, it makes one wonder why are cars so expensive today? Have you seen how they're assembled?
Right. So
yeah,
the car manufacturers in the United States are wanting IQ 47 to do what we did. It's like, dude, we don't know what the parts are. In fact, in the United States, their own documentation that they use to study this, when they study parts, Canada and US is treated as one. It's like 53% Canada, US, this part, and then 27 comes from somewhere else, and whatever comes from somewhere else. They don't even divide it, and we never have because we've been so integrated. So now in order, like the simple process that Donald Trump said was going to be simple, for every single part, you have to go in and analyze that part and figure out how much of that part is Canadian and American, because they used to just consider it Can-Am.
Well,
this is going to be really complicated and expensive.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't the only American car Tesla?
Probably.
I believe that it's the only car that's manufactured 100% in the U.S.
Those that are.
Yes, I could be wrong about that. Somebody please correct me, but I understood that to be the case. Now, maybe that isn't the case, but that's what I understood. Because, I know they're not working with the Canadian car parts manufacturers. They're not working with Mexico. It's pretty much all U.S. made. Now, maybe the steel comes from somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So on the car parts, it looks like, based on some comments, that IQ 47 seems to be indicating that he's open to an extension of the, which he might come back at the next day and say, no, that's not an extension, even though it's an extension of that waiver on those tariffs to, of course, allow time for the American companies to adapt. Yes. I don't know how they're going to adapt by building new plants to make those parts entirely in the United States now. That's going to be more than 90 days, buddy. Just to let you know. So, we'll see what happens. So, with all of that, kids and cubs, if we take a little look at the markets here, yesterday, North American markets did all right, as we mentioned during the day. They were primed for a positive open, and pretty much all of them were up about the 0.6 up to about 1.9. Ironically, the Nasdaq tech bounce that people had expected didn't really hit all that high, considering the additional suspension of tariffs. Again, probably because he opened his yap and said it's not really so then when is 90 days potentially maybe not 90 days, 1.5 days after 90 days was announced, when Donald Trump is president. So there you go. In the Asia Pacific trading at the moment, some modest gains from 0.15% for the Shanghai composite in China, up to 2.1 for the Bombay, but nothing really taking off over there. In Europe, current trading, same thing. All of it's in positive, but from barely over 0.07% up in Switzerland, up to about 1.59% up in Italy, and everything else in between. So not huge gains, but still some slight upward momentum, which is better than the opposite. On the TSX, I think we are getting close now. If we have not passed it, to break even on the year, if I'm not mistaken here. So we're only 4% down for the year now, as opposed to anything way deeper, as was the case a couple of days before. Turmoil. Hurricane Trump, right? We knew it was the chaos was gonna happen. So, but we'll see what else will happen, because there's no firm. I don't know if there's any firm dates for when these things are going to be announced. The extra pharmaceutical tariffs and the extra chip and semiconductor tariffs. I think that there's a date for the lumber ones, but he did, as we mentioned yesterday, hike some tariffs before announcing, or hiked duties before announcing extra tariffs. So again, who knows? It's like political rodeo. Just grab on board and try to hang on for 8 seconds. That's the world we're in right now. Um, conservative campaign. You know it's going well when. Oh my God. Okay, one thing we do need to mention. There are dirty tricks go with politics. They always have, right? In every campaign, there are some. Nobody likes them. Some of them sometimes are funny. Some of them are just downright mean and cruel. Some of them are illegal. But the point is, don't get caught. So there had been some. We had mentioned in Belleville that there was somebody that bought a website that would lead to the Liberal candidate and rearrange it so that it would redirect to the Conservative candidate. Again, we want to be very clear that the Conservative candidate has been very, very, very clear that his campaign had absolutely nothing to do with it.
We're not
It
pointing a
seems that
finger of blame or anything like that. This was somebody else who did this.
yes, it seems that it is somebody else who did this. This has nothing to do. But again, somebody trying to stir the pot.
hmm
Then, as we mentioned, there were people that had defaced some of Bruce Fanjoy's signs when soon after media reports started popping up showing that Pierre's seat might be in trouble by putting fuck Trudeau stickers on top of the Canadian flag on some of his signs. And at one point, he had 300 of his signs disappear from the writing in a very short period of time. Then
We
you've
don't
had
know who
people.
did that, who's responsible. We're not pointing the finger of blame.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't know who did it, but it's awfully curious.
The timing's curious and it's also illegal. Then you
Yes.
had people doing things like, for example, showing a conservative sign that had 4 liberal signs around it and say, look what they did, look what they did. And I have a very hard time believing that somebody didn't just walk around the neighborhood, get 4 liberal signs, put it
And
around
do
there, and
that,
take a
yeah.
picture of that and say, look what they did, because no.
This type of politics didn't exist 20 years ago. This type of thing,
Oh,
not
it,
on the scale that it's on now. It's been look. They called Trudeau the divider, and I'm like, but he's not the
yes.
one saying the country's broken.
But
He's not the one saying all the negative things about the country. That's been
right.
Pierre Poilievre, and it started under Harper. This type of politics. Well, maybe a little bit before that, but it kind of ramped up under Harper, and
Yeah.
under each successive conservative leader, it's gotten worse. And I think this may be the worst case I've seen thus far. It's Maple MAGA that's influencing this, where they're dividing us across party lines like never before. At
Yeah.
one point in time, we had different belief in policies, but now it's just a fundamental different beliefs of humanity, I think, in many respects.
Yeah. My take on this is like dirty tricks have always been part of it, but there's like
It's just ramped up, is what I'm getting at.
yeah,
More so
but
than I've ever seen before.
dirty tricks often, I'm not saying are in good fun, but they're jabs, right? If you have a chance to take a jab, you do. And like I said, there's always been an underworld of fixers and whatnot like this. So there
Right.
are other dirty tricks, right? So, the Roger Stones and all of them, right? Those types of characters. So, but like removing literature from somebody else's porch, like we saw with the George Shahal in the previous election, that type of stuff, right? Those types of dirty tricks. And these are the ones that I'm talking about here. Now, the Liberals did something, and I've been kind of weird about how to cover this because there's a whole part of it that's, oh, come on, really?
Yeah.
clutch pearls. It's not that bad. There is, however, one thing about it that is concerning. One specific small thing about it that is concerning. And that's why I was trying to find the balance. Mr. Grizzly, if you have the visual to show the kits and cubs, but I'm sure pretty much everyone has seen it because this has been talked about like crazy, as opposed to the other ones which have not been talked about very much. This is the one it seems the media has decided to focus on of all the dirty tricks that have taken place.
It's ridiculous. I mean,
these were 2 pins that were put up. Now, for those who are not watching or hearing, there's 2 pins. One has Jenny Byrne written on it and Corey Tonight written on it with Jenny Byrne stricken out.
Correct.
And a maple leaf under it. One is red and says "Stop the Steal."
And the O in the stop.
Now, these pins
stop is in the shape of a stop sign.
Pardon?
The O in the word stop is in the shape of a stop sign.
Exactly. Now, both these pins were circulated at something that's called the Manning Conference, which is sort of like a get-together of people who are conservative-minded, regardless of party, to come together and discuss policy. The Broadbent Institute had theirs for progressive pretty much at the same time. It's kind of odd that they're happening at the same time as an election, but they're not related to the election. These were just scheduled events. But it's where conservatives go to talk to each other about allegedly conservatism and what it is and policies and things they want to pursue. And those were scattered around. Now, the Tonight Burn with Burn crossed out in Tonight, that's a good, clean jab.
Yeah, it's because it's literally happening.
There's some infighting, whatnot. You want to stir the pot. Okay. The Stop the Steal one, though.
Not cool. Not cool.
I know it's feeding on the...
Don't trust the polls.
The hoodies. Don't trust the polls.
Or do you believe the polls, I think is what it said.
Yeah,
But
do
either
you
way,
believe the polls? Yeah. Do you believe the polls? But Stop this. No. That one is just bad.
Very bad.
All right. Trying to claim that a party said something that they did not say is one thing. Trying to plant the seed that they're saying something that they did not say is another thing. Yeah. But doing it by feeding into that specific narrative of rigged elections and it coming from a liberal source, that is just, from any source, that's wrong. But from a liberal source, like, come on. Now, we're not saying that this is party directed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people have made the point, however, because the 2 staffers apparently who allegedly were overzealous and allegedly did this on their own without direction have been reassigned rather than fired. And someone made the point, well, if they were just 2 low-level staffers, I mean, cut.
Yeah. Why are they reassigned?
So somebody's thinking that maybe the decision, because they weren't let go of, right? Another person can turn around and say, well, it's just pins. I'm like, come on, like, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Just reassign and, just keep it quiet. So whatever it is, but yes, it does kind of open that door. Not having let them go makes you wonder if it wasn't in fact 2 overzealous staffers, maybe people that they actually need.
Well,
right?
Possibly, but here's the part that kills me.
It's plausible.
It certainly is, but so Rachel Gilmore broke the story along with a few other people, and I saw commentary on her feed about it. I can't believe you're running with this story without it being blah, blah, blah. She's like, no, it's all those folks, I think, ate crow later on when they turned out it was true. It did happen. This did take place.
Yep. It was actually broken by CBC.
CBC? Okay.
Yep. Because the reporter in the bar.
Oh, it was from CBC? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
like, how dumb do you have to be to do that and then go to a bar, have a few drinks, and brag about it?
No.
What the hell is wrong with you?
I know. I mean,
literally shit can these people.
Yes.
It's poison. It's poison. You don't want that attached to you.
I know. Listen, liberals, especially the young staffers, if this is a young staffer thing, I know you're feeling good. I know after a hard day's work, You're going to sit there, have a pint, talk about the day with the friends,
Yeah.
scores you made, that kind of stuff. Fine. But come on.
Talking about doing
Loose
something
lips sink
that
ships. And then number
dirty and
two,
underhanded.
but this is the other part is the journalist was there, had identified themselves as a journalist, and the person was still saying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So either how dumb or how much in the tank are you when you're saying that? And then, of course, apparently when CBC called for comment, I was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about that." It's like, dude, like,
I just want to know what pub they were at.
Darcy McGee's.
It was Darcy's.
It was Darcy McGee's. Yes. So,
Not surprised.
right? Which is where if you're a journalist,
That's usually where you'll find a
just
lot
go
of
to
journalists.
Darcy McGee's. And the journalist made a point saying, "Oh, by the way, I was only having soda." So I was very clear on what I heard. So, have a couple sodas and just like, walk
Listen.
around the place and just like,
There's a lot of staffers that hang out there. At one point in time, that was a conservative stronghold in that a lot of conservative staffers used to go there after work. And then it was Harper brought the hammer down and said, "No, don't go there anymore." And he meant it. I'm like, wow, that's you're infringing upon people's freedom of movement there, Steve-O.
Yep.
They're not there on official business. You can't tell them what to do in their off hours. But he did. So...
Yep. So,
I have the clip of Mark Carney commenting on that here.
Yes, exactly.
Good morning. Kate McKenna from the CBC.
Hi.
Members of the Liberal War Room, the Central Campaign, distributed Stop the Steal buttons at a Conservative event. Given the anti-democratic implications of this phrase, how much does this event undermine the trust in the way that the Liberals operate, and what have you done in response to these revelations?
Thanks for the question. Look, this is totally unacceptable, to be absolutely clear. And I, on behalf of my campaign, I was unaware of this behavior, but on behalf of my campaign, I apologize for it unreservedly. Okay. I've made it absolutely clear to my campaign that this behavior or anything approximating it or in that spirit is unacceptable, cannot happen again.
Hello, Mr. Carney. TVA. I just want to come back to the buttons we were talking about. You said this was unacceptable and you have apologized to the Conservative Party. Will you fire the members of your team that distributed those buttons at the Conservative event? Well, the people responsible for this have been removed from the campaign.
The responsible people for this issue have been reassigned within the.
I think they should have been fired, but that's just me.
Again, if you want to avoid noise, you fire.
Yes.
Right, which opens the door to the conspiracy, whether or not. Now, I would assume to counter that, the journalist in question, right, was clearly face to face or pretty close to the person. And if the journalists know their beat, and if it was someone high up, certainly they would know, and this story would be bigger. Now, apparently, the other thing that's really interesting about this is that another person, apparently in another place, did the same thing.
Say what now?
Apparently, there were two people that were talking about this loud in a public place where they could be heard.
These are not smart people, are they?
It's like, not only did the journalist who broke the story was in front of someone saying, like, him knowing that she is a journalist and him saying it out loud. But meanwhile, in Ottawa, at some other location, somebody else was also bragging about this thing where journalists were. And therefore, it was very easily to corroborate the story. Yeah. Not bright.
No.
Okay. Number one, don't do this. Number two, if you're going to do this, don't get caught. Number three, best way not getting caught is not by getting shit-faced Perhaps, or lubricated, perhaps, and then bragging about it, perhaps, in a public place, perhaps, well, you know where journalists hang out, perhaps, particularly when one who identifies themselves as a journalist, perhaps, comes directly to you. Guys, girls, come on. It's so dumb. And
Oh, yeah.
had it just been the Corey Jenny button,
That would have been fine. That's no
right?
biggie.
Would have been, and that would have been, yeah, just reassign them. But playing into the stop the steal thing,
Yeah, that's not good.
yeah, not a good look. Not a good look. Okay. Discernment, right? If you're going to do a dirty trick, make it in good fun.
Well, Jenny Byrne, Corey tonight button was, fun and truthful.
Yeah.
There's no word of a lie there. So that was fine.
Yeah.
To stop the steal.
Yeah. But I mean, the other thing is, though, is in a context like this, when you're winning, right? And your rival is somewhat imploding, do not interrupt them.
Mm-hmm.
Do not insert yourself in the story to try to find a way to make it go faster or accelerate and therefore become the story. Just let them implode. Stand back, grab some popcorn, and watch it happen. You don't need to do anything more. You just got to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
There's always somebody that has to come in and do a little more. Just let it happen, man.
Yeah. Need to rein back the exuberance a little bit.
I love this cartoon.
Theo Moudakis cartoon for the day. It has Pierre Polyev in a castle high up on the ledge with a bottle, a cauldron of, I'm sure it's boiling oil, yelling down at the media below saying, "I said this will be the most accessible campaign ever." As he's about to dump boiling oil on them, I guess. I mean, how is it accessible when you won't let anybody travel with you? How is it accessible when you only take 4 questions, no follow-ups, and you pick who gets to ask the questions, and Feltz holds the microphone so they can rip it away if they don't like what you're saying?
Exactly. So,
and calling somebody a protester who's a journalist who you already know.
Right. So, and here's where we get to like maybe a broader definition of dirty tricks. Right? Trying to find a way to keep the media at bay, referring to media as protesters, so that the Canadian public believes that you're being protested and that you're valiantly fighting against that, rather than actually trying to avoid scrutiny, as you accuse the other person of avoiding scrutiny, of course, because why not, right? But we were talking the other day about rally sizes.
What is their obsession with size?
Well, it seems the obsession is not only with them. It seems that it is a pretty standard political thing. But then there's the size of the inflation. There were some people going all along saying this, like, oh, things were inflated by 10%. Not 10%, 10 times. 10, up to 10 times.
Yeah.
So when people started wondering about this, and here's a criticism, right, of the article that CBC put out. Said, well, you guys published all these things. Yes, because they were relying on estimates coming from the parties and other types of, security on location at the site. It turns out when conservatives were saying, well, they got 15,000 people at their event, well, it was because they got 15,000 RSVPs, but that's not the number of people who showed up, right? So what they did, CBC said, you know what? There's a lot of talk about this. Let's go higher. Let's use a technology that allows to grab a picture and put red dots where every head is and manually count them. And then let's corroborate that work by getting a company that does specifically this type of thing to do it. And let's compare our results. So there's a little segment here for you. Enjoy.
Sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up. Just a second. Just having some computer.
Lift, Mr. Grizzly, lift, pull.
At 100%. So I'm trying to figure out what's doing it, and I'm shutting down everything in the background I can.
Oh.
So anyway, I have the clip right here. Here we go. Come on.
Okay, let's talk about crowd sizes.
When was the last time we had a rally that big in Canada? I think it was pretty incredible. Were any of you there? It's magic, eh? Wow.
People are saying crowd numbers for the Conservatives and the Liberals just aren't adding up. Some say these crowds mean the polls are fake.
We do not believe the polls!
So, what's the truth? Are the Liberals and Conservatives inflating their crowd sizes? Well, we tried to find out. We collected videos and photos from these rallies and counted by hand how many people were there. And we were pretty shocked by the results. Both parties got their numbers wrong in a big way. A lot of people were claiming there were 15,000 people at the event.
It's not possible.
Here's Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's rally just outside Edmonton on April 7th.
This has got to be the biggest political gathering of the 21st century.
People are calling it the biggest rally in the history of Canada. And Poilievre and his supporters say 15,000 people are at this event. For some perspective, here's what 15,000 people look like at a Winnipeg Jets home game. And here's the Poilievre campaign photo. This is the clearest picture showing most of the crowd at that rally. So we divided the entire space into grids, counting each head as a red dot and putting them into a spreadsheet. We counted 1,558, not 15,000. We didn't believe it, so we kept digging. We spot this video on social media showing the whole crowd. After lining up landmarks to find the place the campaign photo was taken from, we determined that the photo is missing these people here, here, and here. Hundreds maybe, but not 10,000. We then took it to crowd science expert Keith Still. He's actually written books on this, and he did his own count.
But the best method, as we've been discussing, is to actually do a head count from photographs, so you can put dots on the heads and actually physically count it. It takes a lot longer.
What did you come up with?
1772. But there'll be a margin of error of plus or minus 5% on that.
The campaign and a lot of people were claiming there were 15,000 people at the event.
15,000, so that's 10 times more than we actually physically counted. It's not possible.
We show the Conservatives our findings, and they say our supposed crowd scientists are very clearly mistaken. But they add that the party counts RSVPs as well as people entering the building. When we ask for more details, they just share us a post from a reporter who quoted the RCMP's numbers, which said 9 to 12,000. But when we asked the RCMP how they got their numbers, they said it was a general estimate, not an official head count. Now, let's take a look at a rally with Liberal leader Mark Carney. At this event in Richmond, BC, the Carney campaign says there are 2,000 people here. Again, we want to make sure we're seeing the whole room. We spot this video on social media. This person here, at the back of the room in the video, is right here in the campaign photo. So we're confident we're seeing nearly everyone. And once again, we manually counted. Our count, 756. What did you get for those?
Well, for the Richmond event, we had between 748 and 766. Two of us were counting independently on it, and again, plus or minus 5%, well within the margin of errors for that. So yeah, about 750, 760 people there.
The Liberal campaign tells us it tracks attendees and are maxing out capacity for their events. But check this out. The hotel lists its capacity for the room online, and it maxes out at 1,100. So it can't be 2,000, as the Liberals claim. By the way, these weren't one-offs. We also looked at a Conservative rally in Surrey, BC on March 27th. Poilievre says there were 5,500 people there. Our total, 1,522. Now, check out these floor plans. We can't see the corners or the people in the mezzanine, so we can add a few dozen more. And this Carney rally on April 4th in Scarborough, Ontario, the campaign says it had 1,800 people. Our count, 710. You helped us with 4 events, 2 from each party. What do you make of the fact that they're vastly different?
Yes, I think it might be a truism. Everybody wants their crowd to be larger than the next. It's like who's got the biggest car. But what's important from crowd science is it's very important to get these numbers right.
So both lie.
Both
One of them lies a lot.
15,000. He's like impossible. There was 1,700 max.
See how much he laughed, though?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? So this is important for two reasons. One, to know that you're always pretty much always going to be gaslit on crowd size, no matter what. And I mean, 1.5, if I want to say before two. RCMP estimates 9,000, really?
Yeah, where'd they come up with that number?
Wonder if they budget based on that. 9,000, really? Okay. Just an aside. But number two, the whole point of the rallies for the Conservatives is to convince people not to believe the polls, that there's actually more going on. Well, if they're saying 15,000 and really it's 1,700, and again, that was in Alberta, where Angus Reid says that the favorability of the party is only at +1. Or favorability of the leader, sorry, +1. Kind of makes you understand why they would want you to believe there were 15,000. Because if he can only draw 1,700 from all around in Edmonton, Alberta, that's not good. No, or maybe it is good by Canadian standards, but it wasn't good enough for the story he's trying to tell. Right? The narrative of Pierre, the inevitable. So, right, when you factor that in to what they're trying to do to negate what the polls are saying, maybe the enthusiasm isn't as big as they're trying to make us believe it is. Maybe. Time will tell. There's no way, but again, it opens the door to that speculation.
I'm just fascinated by this. I want to move on from this, but I'm fascinated by this Reform Party fascination with inflating the size of something.
And here's the thing: I want to make sure that we're making this clear that it is not a thing that is unique.
No, they're both doing it.
But
one's really exaggerating. Yeah. One's really
There's a difference between saying there were 2,000 when there were 750, and saying there were 15,000 when there were 1,700. And the first one, 2,000, when there's only 750, is already hard to believe on its own. I mean, it was hard enough to believe that they actually did the count to see, right?
Yeah.
So, there are certain times when the big lie is not a good choice, like when you can actually count. Just saying. Now, the last of, if you would consider it, dirty tricks, and the granddaddy, the big one, came courtesy of the office, directly from the mouth of Premier Doug Ford yesterday. He was asked a question because, of course, when the campaign director a few times during an election campaign makes these bold comments about another campaign, well, at some point, a journalist is going to ask you how you feel about those comments. Well,
Rob, and this brings us to your pick because, someone who says this is about Donald Trump and the economy is Corey Tenike, who is Doug Ford's campaign manager. And he has been, let's just say it, a relentless critic of this campaign. And Doug Ford was asked about this today. And he could have chosen to skip over it, but he didn't. He leaned into it. Listen to the Premier of Ontario.
He's tough as nails, but he's the best campaign manager in the country. And to be very frank, if Corey was running that campaign, I don't think Mr. Poilievre would be in the position he's in right now. But it's still a lot of time left. And we still have debates. At the end of the day, the people will decide which way they want this country to move forward. But sometimes the truth hurts.
The truth hurts, Benzie. Why do you think Doug Ford decided to answer that question the way Doug Ford answered that question?
Well, David, I was actually surprised, and along with Steph, Steph, when she worked for the Star, she and I did many stories on the tensions between Poilievre and Ford Tories, and now I have to do them myself. Steph, I miss you so much. But it is an interesting schism, I guess. And yeah, Mr. Ford could have stayed out of it, but he's not wrong in the sense that Mr. Tank is a very successful political strategist. He has won 3 elections in a row for Mr. Ford, increasing the popular vote tally in each.
Wow.
And I want to focus that on that comment, because again, and we mentioned this on election night, there's a lot of people who are going to look to the fact that he got 3 fewer seats. It was all that for naught, but he did get a higher percentage of the vote share.
Mm-hmm.
Let's also not forget that. So his failure is that he did not get the massive supermajority that he wanted, like as was the case in Nova Scotia, because that's what he was aiming for. Right?
He did win 3 elections, though.
And he did increase his vote share in each of them.
And it's still astonishing to me. It's still astonishing to me because of the fact that we all know what he's done over the last 8 years.
But that's what happens when you concede elections beforehand by not picking quality opposition leaders.
Yeah. Well, it's like Bonnie Crombie, I don't think she's cut out for this, to be honest with you. Merritt Stiles, absolutely. She's a great leader. Mike Schreiner, great leader. I just don't think Bonnie Crombie's cut out. And unfortunately, in the province of Ontario, it's basically either Conservative or Liberal. We're not open to electing a different party. Whereas I think Mike Schreiner would have been the best choice in this instance.
Yep. As a person to lead, yes.
I mean, without question. He stays focused on the issues. He doesn't play silly politics. He is passionate in what he's doing. I think he would have made a great premier, honestly. And a lot of people tried to get him to move to the Liberal Party as Liberal leader.
They did.
After the previous election, and he just didn't. His heart wasn't in it to do that. Had he been the Liberal leader, he probably would have won.
Probably.
There's no guarantee. We'll never know, but that's probably the case. I think he would have won.
Well, he would have had a better chance.
Certainly.
He would have had a better chance. That's for sure. Did I lose you, sir?
No, I'm still here. Sorry, I'm just trying to shut down things in the background that are slowing my computer down.
Okay. So, yeah. Again, probably not something Pierre needed on debate eve. For the story to be, again, now how Doug Ford is, basically serves you. I won't say serves you right, but pretty much serves you right. You picked the wrong person. Yesterday, as we mentioned, because a lot of the time is spent on debate prep, there wasn't a lot. Sorry, but there wasn't a ton of activity, but there was more than I expected there to be on this day. Mark Carney was in Dorval yesterday, and he was making a big announcement on securing Canada's sovereignty. Quote, "We won't only bring the Canadian Armed Forces up to today's standards, but we will create good, high-paying jobs and prosperity here at home through a made-in-Canada procurement strategy." So he was pitching a new defense procurement strategy that would streamline the purchase of equipment for Canada's military, stressing the importance of buying Canadian wherever possible and prioritizing the use of Canadian raw materials. This goes on top of news that we had the day before that he had a meeting with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, and then on to his early campaign announcement when he was talking about more defenseman strategy in terms of procuring icebreakers and other types of things to help move us towards the 2% and of GDP and other defense objectives with regard to the changing security dynamic with the United States. So there, when he was mentioning that earlier on, it was he was talking about increasing route recruitment, building submarines and icebreakers. But the big announcement here, one of the big announcements, is the creation of a Bureau of Research called Borealis, and that's an acronym for Bureau of Research, Engineering, and Advanced Leadership in Science, to make sure that the Canadian military and the Canadian Security Establishment, the CSE, I believe that's the name of it, have the advanced technology they need to fight cyber attacks. And Mark Carney said, Borealis will advance cutting-edge research in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and other frontier technologies essential to safeguarding Canadian sovereignty, because today's defense is not only about manpower, it's about brain power. Yeah,
well, if you consider that the CSIS is the CIA of Canada, CSE would be considered the NSA of Canada.
Okay.
Which is a much bigger agency with a much larger budget, but operates largely in the shadows. They don't really have a PR wing per se. They are a much larger organization. They've been around since World War II, and they do some pretty sophisticated things, and that's all I can tell you. I have done work
good
there.
for the tip. Yeah. There you go. Thanks. No, I appreciate the knowledge.
You're welcome.
The other objective here is to expand Canada's Coast Guard and to integrate its equipment and personnel within Canada's NATO capabilities, because the Coast Guard in Canada is considered a little separate. In the United States, the Coast Guard is one of the departments of the military, but not necessarily so in Canada. But given that it can help, he's going to find a way to be able to integrate the equipment and the personnel within the NATO capabilities so that we can get credit for that too. He says that his plans will boost defense industries and help businesses with their sales abroad. In addition to that Bureau of Research, he's also pitching a new defense procurement agency specifically that would streamline the purchase of equipment for Canada's military, because it just takes too long. It just takes too long. By the time we get them, the technology is obsolete. So we got to speed that up a little bit. Pierre Poliev. Oh, sorry. Did you have anything on that, Mr. Grizzly? Additional?
No, not at this time.
Okay. No. Pierre Poliev, for his part, was in Montreal because the debates are going to be in Montreal. So a lot of people are hanging around there, campaigning over the next few days. He was there to add yet more to his overall crime policy. This is now, I think, the third day or the fourth day on the campaign so far that he's made announcements as they pertain specifically to crime. And this one is rather concerning.
Back on our streets, for them, a life sentence should mean what it says, a life sentence. They should only come out in a box.
Currently, people convicted of first-degree murder in Canada are ineligible for parole for 25 years. The CBC's Catherine Tunney has more on this. Catherine.
David, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is renewing his vow to use the controversial notwithstanding clause to get part of his tough on crime agenda through. The leader once again harkened back to the Stephen Harper era, promising to use a charter clause to resurrect a law that gives judges the power to sentence people who have been convicted of multiple.
So he wants to throw out their charter rights, basically. The other thing we need to note here is that you're eligible for parole after 20 or 25 years?
25 years.
Just because you're eligible,
not eligible
doesn't mean you get it. Yeah, so 25 years, you're eligible for parole. You have a parole hearing, they go, no, which is why Paul Bernardo will never get out. So he's playing with words here to try and make you think that these people are going to get out. They're never getting out.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about this law. Number one, if he writes a new law, it can't apply retroactively.
No, it can't.
Right. So if he wants to suspend the charter rights of people that have already been convicted to make sure they're not going to get out, he's going to have to propose a whole other new law and a whole other way of violating fundamental human rights for them. So this would be for cases going forward. Number one. Number two, this has already been tested in court under Harper. just like some of his mandatory minimums and 3 strikes type laws. You have to remember, Harper, on these types of matters, has gone down in history as the most overturned by the court's prime minister in Canadian history. Every single one of these that he tried to get by was an attempt on him to violate the charter and take away some of your rights as Canadian citizens. Now, a lot of us will turn around, well, they're just inmates and I'll never be an inmate. So, really?
Mm-hmm.
With an authoritarian government, really? Are you sure that you will never be an inmate at one point?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is
So-
how it begins, right? This is the slippery slope that takes us to full dictatorship if we're not paying attention. And this comment here from Saucy Sea Witch, sorry, this notwithstanding clause is just a stepping stone to go after other parts of the charter. He's using murderers as a way to convince people it's okay to use the notwithstanding clause. Fully agree.
Exactly. And this is a strategic move to try to get, of course, all the other parties to say something where then he could turn around and say, see, they all want to defend mass murderers. Where all the nobody wants to defend mass murderers.
No.
Right? But people do want to defend the charter.
For good reason.
And they are not one and the same. The Supreme Court of Canada struck down a Harper-era law allowing for consecutive sentences, calling them incompatible with human dignity. Incompatible with human dignity, but Pierre believes that should still be overridden.
Wow.
Okay. He said he would use the notwithstanding clause to prevent that from happening again, thus making him the first prime minister, if he became prime minister, in Canadian history to do so. Now, in this case, when we say Canadian history, this version of the charter with the notwithstanding clause has only existed since 1982. So it's short history. It's not the entire history of Canada, but he would become the first to use it to do so. And as he's doing this, he wants you to believe, oh, no, don't worry. I'll only lose this for criminal stuff. I won't use it for anything societal. I won't use it to take away Canadians' rights. You are taking Canadians' rights. So that framing, by saying I'll only use it for criminal stuff, but not to take away Canadians' rights, is this guy telegraphing that if you are a criminal, he does not believe you are Canadian. And therefore you do not have rights. He does not believe you are a human. And you do not have rights. It's like he's taking away human rights. He's just not taking away yours. And he wants you to believe that there's a difference between taking the rights away of criminals and taking away human rights. Criminals do not stop being human.
Well, he seems to think they do. I mean, that's what he wants to do is eliminate their humanity.
Now, we can have a debate, again, legitimately, on whether or not consecutive sentences should be consecutive and whether or not they do constitute something that is incompatible with human dignity. Somebody wants to have that debate. But to turn around and say, I have unilaterally decided that the Supreme Court on this is wrong.
Well, and he's going
a guy
on
who's
on.
never had a job in the real world, especially not one
Yes.
with legislating, and who's not proven to be a particularly good or adept or even enthusiastic legislator himself.
I mean, he's going up. Mass murderers are being released. Well, this is what happened when he was asked that question.
Hi, Mr. Polyev, Yes. 3 Global News. Is there an example of when a mass murderer has been set free? Does the parole board not usually rule against that?
Well, the problem is that the ruling just happened in 2022. So the clock started ticking on these cases in that year.
Huh?
So what we will see is 25 years forward, these offenders will be eligible for parole. And it should, when you kill 6 people,
You have your parole hearing. It doesn't mean you get released.
you should never be able to force the families of the victims to have to come and testify at a parole hearing so that they relive the hell that you've exacted on them. This
You didn't answer the
completely
question.
obvious. The principle of a fair justice system is proportionality.
Well, how's that fair?
When you kill
If you deny
6
their right
people
to
to be
parole
eligible
hearing.
to go back on the streets only 25 years later is not only disproportionate but it is a violation of the charter rights of the victims and of their families. And I will use the charter to protect the charter.
What?
I will also use the charter to put an end to the liberal crime wave that has been caused over the last 10 years. We can't afford a fourth liberal term of skyrocketing crime and costs. We need a change with a new government so you can afford your food and homes, so you can walk safely in your streets, so your paycheck grows faster than your costs.
Okay. 1, families of the victims to have no charter rights. Okay. He's taking the Quebec mosque thing.
Yeah.
Right. One of the most graphic scenarios. Because he wants you to believe he cares about Muslims now.
Well, if he can use them to get elected.
Right. And then trying to say, because this person had been given, I think, was he sentenced to consecutive life?
I don't know.
Or he was sentenced to a long time, and then his sentence got reduced or something. I mean, it's still life with no eligibility parole for 25 years.
Right.
But I think they got more, whatnot. And he said, this is the maximum that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but he's taken this particular situation, now he's peddling it, presenting it as the norm, presenting it as if these people get, he's conflating this with the person in Vancouver that he's the 46 people allegedly in Vancouver that he claims get released and arrested 1,500 times. These are violent criminals that need jail, not bail, and trying to relate that to this.
Yeah.
We got to stop them from getting out. It's like, but when are multiple serial killers ever let out?
This is what I hear.
Have you ever had a dream that you had
I mean, he's just lost in the sauce.
Yep.
You can't answer the question because nobody's ever been released.
Yes. And he also adds in that, if you were paying attention, that he also plans to use it for other things.
Yeah.
But not if you're not to take away your right to get married if you're gay, or not for an abortion or anything like that. But okay, fine. But what if you're Indigenous and you're protesting a pipeline? What if you're one of those climate activists and you're protesting the cutting down of some old growth forest in order to get to a mine? And then he calls you, he starts referring to you as terrorists.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, he wants to be a dictator. You don't believe me? He told us he would use the notwithstanding clause. He told us.
Yes. He did.
He wants to override the charter because he doesn't care.
He did it in front of a group of police.
Yeah.
When he said he was going to do it.
The first time he said it, that's correct.
And he's got some police sort of boards giving endorsements, which should never happen. Police unions should not be endorsing politicians ever.
Nope.
Ever. That is so concerning.
Yes. That's really bad.
Super bad.
When the strong arm of the law, the one who enforces the laws on the streets, is supporting what that politician, that possible prime minister is saying, and endorses the person.
And again,
each other's pockets at that point.
You got to wonder. And again, Pierre keeps on telling you, don't rely on people that have benefited from a bad situation in order to help you out with them. Let's remember again that Pierre got to where he was because the party he now leads pleaded guilty in court to election cheating, actual crime, in order to save 4 people from going to jail, and that he himself has a compliance agreement, which is a deferred prosecution agreement with Elections Canada, because he himself, in his own right, individually, on his own, separate from that court case, cheated. But he wants you to believe that he's the crime guy, tough on crime guy, and the ethics guy, because that's another thing he came out with the other day. He's got this whole new ethics policy. Remember the Harper's Accountability Act, under which almost no conservative was found guilty of anything by Mary Dawson for nearly a decade. And Bavoda still did what she did. Right? Come on. The conservatives, how you know, again, they're losing. Third announcement on crime, people are going to come out in a box, that type of language. That should concern you. Right there. Planning to use it on other people. All of that, that's definitely red meat to the base. And you knew that this was planned, because 4 days ago, before coming all up on the, I'm going to use the notwithstanding clause, he felt the need, even though nobody really asked. It hasn't come up yet. Because normally when this subject comes up, conservatives complain, oh, look at the liberals going to that again. That's all they have. The issue was abortion. And it wasn't because a liberal brought it up.
No.
Pierre Poilievre, because he is doing so terribly with women, proactively raised the issue of abortion during a campaign stop in southern Ontario on Friday. There will be no laws or other restrictions imposed on a woman's right to decide to do with her body as she wishes, he said, and that is something that I am guaranteeing to you and all Canadians. Poilievre said it has been the Conservative Party's policy for 21 years that there will be no restrictions introduced on a woman's right to choose. He said that promise will be included explicitly in the party's platform. Poilievre made the pledge at a campaign event hosted at a shipyard in St. Catharines, Ontario, in response to a reporter's question about whether he would promise a free vote on the topic in the House of Commons if there was enough interest. The Conservative Party policy declaration, last updated in September 2023, states, quote, on issues of moral conscience such as abortion, the definition of marriage, and euthanasia, the Conservative Party acknowledges the diversity of deeply held personal convictions among individual party members and the right of members of Parliament to adopt positions in consultation with their constituents and to vote freely. That same declaration also states, as Poilievre pointed out, that a Conservative government would not support any legislation to regulate abortion. Party leaders are not bound to follow the directions of policy declarations. Of course, it does not say that should a private member's bill pass,
exactly,
he would, well, I don't know if he has a choice to enact it or not on that one.
But how many times has Arnold Viersen stood up in the House? 34 times, something like that?
Yeah. So, according here, it says the Canadian Press contacted the Conservative campaign to ask whether Poilievre would permit MPs to table private members' bills on abortion, but has not received a response. I've heard other reports since then suggesting that maybe he seems to be indicating that even that would not be okay with him, but I don't know how he actually prevents that, unless he makes sure that the House leader never puts it on the order paper for it to come up. It's about the only thing I can think. Liberal leader Mark Carney was asked on the first day of the election if he would support abortion access as Prime Minister. Quote, I absolutely support a woman's right to choose unreservedly and will defend it as the Liberal Party has defended it proudly and consistently, he said. The question from a reporter was posed in the context of Carney's faith as a Roman Catholic. We presented that clip to you when it happened. He wanted to explain that his faith informs his sense of responsibility and service. The NDP has campaigned on a promise to improve access and coverage for abortion care in Canada. Abortion access was a critical issue in the United States election last year and has been a recurring issue in Canadian campaigns as well. In particular, abortion rights have been a divisive issue within conservative ranks, with some social conservatives in Canada pushing to restrict access to abortion. Other federal parties have attempted to use abortion rights to wedge would-be conservative voters away from the party. Aaron O'Toole, conservative leader during the 2021 federal election campaign, said he was pro-choice, but Liberals accused him of pretending to support a woman's right to choose. His predecessor, Andrew Scheer, who remains the candidate in the current federal election, described himself as pro-life during the 2019 campaign, but vowed not to reopen the abortion debate in the House of Commons. Nobody really believed him. As recently as May 2024, then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau attacked conservative political leaders, accusing them of failing to stand up for women's rights in Canada amid the rollback of Roe v. Wade abortion protections in the United States. In particular, He chastised Blaine Higgs, the progressive conservative premier of New Brunswick at the time, over legislation that stemmed public funding for abortion clinics in the province. Higgs was defeated by Liberal Susan Holt in the provincial election later that year. And of course, there were, those conservative MPs that showed up at a rally funded by a pro-life group in the United States.
Yeah, Campaign Life Coalition.
Yes.
Oh no, is that the U.S.
That's
based
the Canadian one.
That's the Canadian one, right?
Yeah, I believe their travel was paid for that too, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that one, but yes, you would think that a party that does have it in their principles that they do respect the right to choose would maybe frown upon candidates going to such events on the party's dime and party's time.
Mm-hmm.
If it was sincere. But Pierre felt the need. I guess it wasn't that proactively because a journalist asked, but again, felt the need to reassure the Little Women that he wasn't coming after their uterus.
But he won't stop any of his backbenchers from tabling anything.
It seems, again,
he leaves the back door open.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that one as definitive on that one because I've heard a couple of other stories, but I would like to see it confirmed a couple of other times before I take it as fact. And then again, I would only believe it when it lasts with him. But I'm sorry, a person that's willing to use the notwithstanding clause to keep those he determines are society's rejects in jail forever and strip them of whatever human rights that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come and make me believe that somewhere down the line, he's not going to find the way to suggest that an environmental protester that's a little inconvenient is a terrorist and deserves the same treatment. Which is not going to make me believe that if the amount of funding from the donors, right, particularly in an election that he seems that he might lose, let's say in a second term or a third term, that a group like Campaign Life Coalition saying, well, if you use the notwithstanding clause on this, here's the thing. Once you can use it once, it becomes way easier to justify the next time.
You just desensitize everyone is all you're doing, right?
Right. So I will only use it for the worst people, the people that we all agree are bad. Don't believe that. Don't believe that.
I know they fought to keep the notwithstanding clause out of the charter, but it was something that was put in to get the signatories. Quebec still hasn't signed it, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Yes. I do have this clip you sent me from.
Okay.
This is completely obvious. The principle of a fair justice system is proportionality. And when you kill 6 people to be eligible to go back on the streets only 25 years later is not only disproportionate, but it is a violation of the charter rights of the victims and of their families. And I will use the charter to protect the charter.
Politicizing certain issues with respect to fundamental rights is a slippery slope that leads to further politicization. Being tough on crime and being tough starts with being smart on crime. And it includes being tough on guns and gun violence. And I note that, with regret, that Mr. Poilievre has voted against every single gun control measure during his very long career as a career politician and member of the House of Commons. I think it's over 200 times.
We were looking at ways to close down its use or to restrict its use because it's deeply problematic that provincial governments are undermining workers' rights and threatening to use the notwithstanding clause for that, undermining human rights and using the notwithstanding clause to do that. I think those are both very problematic things.
When you are in the position of a person that wants to be Prime Minister of Canada, you should rely more on improving justice system and laws than removing yourself.
Mm. Mm. Now, there's a certain irony in Monsieur Blanchet having that position.
Yes, sir.
Considering his stance on Bill 21 and Bill 96.
Yeah, that's
Now,
very
of course,
ironic.
he will say, well, that's different because we're defending culture and secularism, but you're still doing it by taking away people's rights preemptively, right? On Bill 21, you are creating a situation where citizens of the province of Quebec, certain select ones, are not entitled to the full range of employment that everyone else is, but still gets to pay the same taxes for that privilege. That's not okay. There's got to be a better way of achieving the same goal than that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
I have to go, sir.
Yes.
I have to go. It's getting late for me, and I have appointments. Sorry, I got to leave, but have to attend to things. You can finish up the show.
Yep.
I will see everybody tomorrow. My words of wisdom. Get out and enjoy the spring-like weather when you can. I'll see you.
All right. Thank you, sir. So the thing about that clip with Mr. Carter that kind of disappoints me is that I really wish that when it came to crime, that the Liberals could go somewhere else but guns. Guns are important, absolutely, but that's not the only thing, right? We could talk about investing in various social programs in terms of to prevent crime. You could talk about, hiring more judges to clear some backlog. They could go to, Jordan's principle, or there's lots of other areas. Then we have to control guns. I would like the response to be a little more creative. Now, Carney did have some stuff to say about crime over the past few days. He was in Brampton when he announced that a Liberal government would automatically revoke gun licenses from those convicted of intimate partner violence, tighten the current yellow and red flag laws. Sorry, I'm tripping over my tongue here. Tighten the current yellow and red flag laws, invest in the RCMP, crack down on cross-border gun smuggling, and reinvigorating the gun buyback program launched under his predecessor. He said that Poilievre and the Conservative Party are aiming to bring forward, quote, irresponsible American-style gun laws. Local Liberal candidate, Carney's Defense Minister Bill Blair, was at the press conference, as was Nathalie Provost. Provost was the survivor of the École Polytechnique shooting and gun control advocate, and she's currently running for the Liberals in Montreal. While Pierre was at another event, he took some questions about tariffs and the three strikes law he has pledged, which allowed him to respond that his government would ensure that, quote, repeat offenders, quote, will only ever be released if they can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are no longer, a threat, which again is probably not the standard. So there's extreme language, right? They'll only come out of a box. They will get bail if they can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they will not create, proof beyond a reasonable doubt is what's required for murder. So what's required for bail cannot be proof beyond a shadow of a doubt, an even higher standard. That's inherently unconstitutional on its face, again. But he's using this language. The use of this type of language and him going back to the well on crime 3 times gives me the feeling that he is at a phase of the campaign where he's trying to save the furniture as much as possible here. That he's really leaning into it and feeding the red meat to the base. And it would make me wonder that whether or not, not whether or not, but despite the fact that the polling number, the top line number, is maintaining steady for him, whether or not people who would vote Conservative are feeling that if they were asked the question, who do you think will win the election, are no longer saying Poilievre and are saying Carney. And that might, if that's the feeling, that remains, particularly after the debates, particularly if Carney does particularly well in the debates, and that Polyev doesn't do as well because now there's so much more pressure on him to perform. He won't be as relaxed going into it. He knows this is his last shot. He's got to make it big somehow. So, which makes him more prone to mess up. But if we get out of these debates, either in a neutral position or with Carney having landed a few punches on Polyev, or even Blanchet having landed a few and weakening him, but Polyev coming out weakened and bruised somehow, that could maybe accelerate the sense of inevitability that Polyev's campaign is doomed and could depress a conservative vote, actual votes coming out on election day. Pardon me, I do have to sneeze. There we go. Thank you for your indulgence there, kids and cubs. So there's if coming out of the debates, Polyev's announcements are really focused on housing, taxes, crime, and not anything else. And he is either adding more tax cuts, more slivers to things he's already announced, or simply just re-announcing things, repackaging and re-announcing. He's trying to save the furniture. And then, of course, you got to look at whether he's campaigning. So if in the last week he's campaigning more in the GTA, campaigning in the, especially if he's campaigning anywhere other than British Columbia. But even British Columbia, other than British Columbia, west of Ontario in the last week, a lot. He might be concerned about having a lower seat count than even the models are showing here. Jagmeet Singh, for his part, was in Toronto, and he was introducing a new national strategy to end the nursing shortage. So he unveiled a strategy to tackle it using with an objective of having a better nurse-to-patient ratio, establishing safer working conditions, and having higher compensation. Quote, "For us, healthcare is fundamental. It's who we are as Canadians, and at the federal level, we should be talking about it. It should be an item in the debate, and even though it's not right now, I'm going to bring it up in the debate." Now, when I heard that quote, I was a little confused because I didn't know what he meant by it's not in the debate right now, but it seems that the topics for the debate have been released to the candidates, the overall topics, so they know overall what to prepare for, and that healthcare is not a topic in either the French language or English language debate. So Jagmeet Singh is vowing to make sure that he's going to bring it up at some point. He says that he will eliminate the $1.5 billion being spent on private nursing agencies to reinvest the money in public health care teams. He says that he will pay student nurses during clinical training and give more than 780,000 nurses and personal support workers a $5,000 tax credit. He also plans to hire 35,000 nurses between now and 2030, even though hiring nurses is a provincial jurisdiction. But he says that he will encourage that by proposing to tie healthcare transfers to nursing retention strategies. So basically, the more nurses that you can retain, I guess, the higher your transfers are going to be. He also is proposing hiring more nurses from outside the country by fast-tracking accreditation, particularly those from the United States. And yesterday, also, the Greens and the Bloc were campaigning in the Montreal area. Kids and cubs, as you can hear, I'm a little stuffed up at the moment. So if you will excuse me just for a little second, I will try to relieve that. I will be with you very shortly. If you need a bathroom break or a water break, please take one. I'll be with you in a second because the last thing you need is to hear me sniffling, particularly since the mic is so close. It's probably not going to be an attractive sound. So just give me a second and I will be right back with you. There we go. That's a little better. Thank you once again for your indulgence. Really appreciate that. All right, kits and cubs. That's the end of the main stuff that I had for you today with regard to that. Just taking a little look here. It seems that the inflation numbers will be coming out today too. They are expected to go up based on what's going on. And of course, with the end of the GST holiday, they had gone up already a little bit. There is a lowering of gas prices, so maybe some things will cancel each other out. But the number that has been being thrown about is around 2.6 as an expectation. So we'll see what happens there. There's also been some conflicting reports about Bank of Canada interest rate cuts. I've seen newspaper articles stating that with what's going on with regard to tariffs and stuff, that you can pretty much count on the fact that there will be at least 2 more this year. And a lot of people are suspecting that the announcement coming up in April, I believe it is, from the Bank of Canada, will have an interest rate cut, given all that's been going on. However, the dollar has been maintaining some strength, which was not expected in this case, because nobody expected that there would be a turmoil in the bond market as well, which would cause the value of the US dollar to depreciate a little bit in this context. So, how all of this plays with the expectations for interest rates seems to be um, up in the air, because as much just as I've seen that article say that we can expect at least 2 more, and originally at the beginning of the year they were saying we could expect 4 over the course of the year, and we have gotten 1 already. The other one article was saying that there might not be any. So, 2 different takes from different economists saying the opposite thing, which is usually the case when you get more than one economist in the room, from what I've heard. So, not sure specifically what the guidance here, but it seems that the overall guidance is that there will be another rate cut coming when it does. So, we definitely will keep our eyes out uh, at. But today we will get those inflation numbers, and maybe they will factor into the debates over the next uh, few days. But yeah, I'm not sure when the next interest date. Yeah, April 16th is the next announcement. So that should, well, that's tomorrow, right? So we're getting inflation numbers today, and then we'll get Bank of Canada data tomorrow. So yeah, that could factor into last minute debate preparation and show up on debate night. Other little tidbits for you, kids and cubs. Just looking to see where people are today. While amid all the debate prep, Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre will have competing appearances this morning. This is from iPolitics, with Carney set to speak in the northwestern suburb of Saint-Eustache, as Poilievre will do the same at an undisclosed location somewhere in the city. For his part, New Democrat leader Jagmeet Singh is also scheduled to make an on-camera announcement a few minutes later. Green Party co-leader, I should say, Jonathan Penneau, will clock in another day on the hustings in Outremont, where he's hoping to secure the party's first ever seat in Quebec. And also on the radar, because we were talking about guns earlier, gun control advocacy group Poly Remembers will hold a mid-morning briefing at the Polytechnique Montréal alongside graduates who, quote, witnessed the mass shootings on December 6, 1989, as well as, quote, student representatives to, quote, release the results of an all-party survey on gun control commitments, as well as share their perspective on the, quote, actions and commitments of federal political parties on gun control, quote, and more specifically regarding the issue of assault weapons. That will take place at 10 a.m. Later this afternoon, Kitchener Centre Green candidate Mike Morris, who along with Penneau's co-leader Elizabeth May is just one of 2 Green incumbents on the current ballot, teams up with a full contingent of Southwestern Ontario Green hopefuls to share their party's housing plan at 3:30 p.m. And and then other people will about to be doing fundraising and that type of stuff. All right. Before we go, just a couple of things for you kids that you might want to be aware of. And I am just bringing up the outline. There we go, because I had to go to another window for you. There has been a presidential election in Ecuador. Ecuador is a nation with which we recently signed a free trade agreement. The preliminary results indicate that the conservative incumbent Daniel Noboa has won re-election. He's been running on fighting crime and on economic revitalization. It seems that drug-fueled violence and energy conservation are some of the biggest challenges facing the country. His main rival, Luisa Gonzalez, is demanding a recount. She does not recognize the results, stating, "Today, we do not recognize the results. I refuse to believe that people would prefer lies instead of truth, violence instead of peace and unity." So we'll see what happens there. Other sad news, particularly if you are rainbow. The government of Hungary, which has been protested a lot by its citizens over the past while, I guess needed distraction of some kind. So once again, they went after rainbow people and passed a constitutional amendment that affected rainbow people. This is by Justin Spike of the Associated Press. Hungary's parliament on Monday passed an amendment to the constitution that allows the government to ban public events by LGBTQ+ communities, a decision that legal scholars and critics call another step towards authoritarianism by the populist government. The amendment, which required a 2/3 vote, passed along party lines with 140 votes and 21 against. It was proposed by the ruling Fidesz-KDNP coalition led by populist Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Ahead of the vote, the final step for the amendment, opposition politicians and other protesters attempted to blockade the entrance to a parliament parking garage. Police physically removed demonstrators who had used zip ties to bind themselves together. The amendment declares that children's rights to moral, physical, and spiritual development supersede any right other than the right to life, including that to peacefully assemble. Hungary's contentious, quote, child protection legislation prohibits the depiction or promotion of homosexuality to minors aged under 18. That amendment codifies a law fast-tracked through Parliament in March that bans public events held by LGBTQ+ communities, including the popular Pride event in Budapest that draws thousands annually. The law also allows authorities to use facial recognition tools to identify people who attend prohibited events, such as Budapest Pride, and come with fines of up to 200,000 Hungarian florins, or $546. David Bedo, a lawmaker with the opposition Momentum Party who participated in the attempted blockade, said before the vote that Orban and Fidesz for the past 15 years, quote, have been dismantling democracy and the rule of law, and in the past 2 or 3 months we see that this process has been sped up. He said as elections approach in 2026, Orban's party lags in the polls behind a popular new challenger from the opposition. Quote, they will do everything in their power to stay in power. And that includes throwing rainbow people under the bus, as we have seen here, with as it pertains to transgender people. Opposition lawmakers used air horns to disrupt the vote, which continued after a few moments. Hungary's government has campaigned against LGBTQ+ communities in recent years and argues its, quote, child protection policies, which forbid the availability to minors of any material that mentions homosexuality, are needed to protect children from what it calls, quote, woke ideology and gender madness. Critics say the measures do little to protect children and are being used to distract from more serious problems facing the country and mobilize Orban's right-wing base ahead of elections. Quote, this whole endeavor, which we see launched by the government, it has nothing to do with children's rights, said Daniel Dobrenti, a lawyer with the Hungarian Civil Liberties Union, calling it, quote, pure propaganda. The new amendment also states that the Constitution recognizes 2 sexes, male and female, an expansion of an earlier amendment that prohibits same-sex adoption by stating that a mother is a woman and a father is a man. The declaration provides a constitutional basis for denying the gender identities of transgender people, as well as ignoring the existence of intersex individuals who are born with sexual characteristics that do not align with binary conceptions of male and female. In a statement on Monday, government spokesperson Zoltán Kovács wrote that the change is, quote, not an attack on individual self-expression, but a clarification that legal norms are based on biological reality. Dobrenti, the lawyer, said it was, quote, a clear message for transgender and intersex people, quote, quote, "It is definitely purely and strictly about humiliating people, and not just from the national community, but even from the community of human beings." The amendment is the 15th to Hungary's constitution since Orbán's party unilaterally authored and approved it in 2011. Jeez. Adam Remport, a lawyer with the HCLU, said that while Hungary has used facial recognition tools since 2015 to assist police in criminal investigations and finding missing persons, the recent law banning Pride allows the technology to be used in a much broader and problematic manner. That includes for monitoring and deterring political protests. Quote, "One of the most fundamental problems is its invasiveness, just as the sheer scale of the intrusion that happens when you apply mass surveillance to a crowd," Remport said. More salient in this case is the effect of the freedom of assembly, specifically the chilling effect that arises when people are scared to go about and show their political or ideological beliefs for fear of being persecuted, he added. The amendment passed Monday also allows for Hungarians who hold a dual citizenship in a non-European Economic Area country to have their citizenship suspended for up to 10 years if they are deemed to pose a threat to public order, public security, or national security. Hungary has taken steps in recent months to protect its national sovereignty from what it claims are foreign efforts to influence its politics or even topple the Orbán government. The self-described illiberal leader has accelerated his long-standing efforts to crack down on critics such as media outlets and groups devoted to civil rights and anti-corruption, which he says have undermined Hungary's sovereignty by receiving financial assistance from international donors. In a speech laden with conspiracy theories in March, Orbán compared people who work for such groups to insects and pledged to, quote, "eliminate the entire shadow army of foreign-funded, quote, politicians, judges, journalists, pseudo-NGOs, and political activists." Paranoid much. The reason I read all of this to you is, again, because you have Pierre saying, "Oh, no, I will only use the notwithstanding clause for this." This Orbán guy instituted a new constitution in 2011 and has amended it 15 times already since. Because there's always a new threat or a new group to push down or keep down. Stephen Harper preached much closer ties with Viktor Orbán. Viktor Orbán is a very, very valued member in good standing of the IDU. These policies here that you see in Hungary, the potential to have your citizenship stripped away for 10 years. That's what they want here. Look to Hungary. That's the beta test. Every place where Stephen Harper is active with his IDU group, this is what he would like to bring. And this is why we have to vote this time around. And probably for the several next elections. Because so long as the Conservative Party keeps on presenting us another 0.0 version, 5.0, 6.0, 7.0 of Harper, and Harper remains at the head of the Conservative Party of Canada, because he is, this is what we have to guard against. And it's almost a situation that if we let them win just once, they're not adverse to moving fast and breaking things, right? Reading these articles, they're scary and they are eye-opening at the same time. Because this is happening in other parts of the world, and there are people who are looking to the people who are doing this with stars in their eyes and great admiration. And they're saying, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had that too? And the answer to that is no, it would not be great. Would not be great at all. This move, citizens of Hungary had a liberal pride parade where everybody was dressed in gray and no one danced. If a picture is worth 1,000 words. it's really sad. And yes, I see all the comments here in the chat again about what's going on in the United States with regard to El Salvador. And the person that they rendered over there by mistake. And now, for some reason, well, we can't demand him back. I mean, that would go against the rights of El Salvador as a sovereign nation, as Canadians and people from Greenland and Panama laugh. Oh, now he's concerned about the sovereignty of a smaller nation. Okay. So, and of course, the leader of El Salvador, well, saying that, why would I return them? Again, opening the door to a lot of conspiracy theories. Maybe it's because you can't. But also, more Occam's razor. El Salvador is getting some pretty good coin for doing this. So, if the guy who's paying the coin doesn't want the guy returned, but doesn't want to have any of the blood on his hands, just has to turn around and say, well, I can't tell a sovereign country what to do. And then the sovereign country just has to say, well, no, we're not going to return them. And there you go. And then wait a couple of days until the story just fades away in the background because, well, there'll be a new crisis and more chaos. There are still some of those kids that were separated from their families the first time around that have never been reunited. Just saying. These decisions have very, very real consequences to people that the people making these decisions don't give two fucks about. They're off at their next cocktail fundraiser. While some guy's languishing in a jail, if they're still alive. I tell you, man, it's not good. So this is why, kids and cubs, this is why we have to, vote and make it clear and have great turnout this time around to send a message, not only to ourselves, but to the world that, we may be a laid back country when we think everything's going well and all that type of stuff. But when it comes time, we can mobilize. To have an end bit that's a little happier because the last two were a little heavy. Corey Connors, the golfer, had a great Masters. We had talked about him. He was in the lead at one point on the first day. I think was tied for second after the first day, and going into the last day was in third place. Unfortunately, had a rough last day and ended up in 8th overall. But that's still a top 10 finish for Corey Connors at the Masters. And another Canadian, I believe it was Nick Taylor, did make the cut and finished in the top 50. Mike Weir, from whom not much was expected, almost didn't make the cut. He was off by 2 strokes. 2 strokes. Would have been really nice to see him get another weekend at Augusta so many years after. I mean, I think it was 2003 he won, so it would have been like 22 years after winning the first time. That would have been a lovely moment for him. But he did play very well, I have to say. For someone for whom not a lot was expected, he was very, very close to making the cut. All right, kids and cubs. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. Now, remember, kids and cubs, that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. There you go. Oh, that's the wrong one. Yeah, see, I didn't stick it. But if you want to tell your peeps and poops all about us, we would appreciate that. And if you would like to make sure that you do not miss an episode of our show in podcast version, if you take us on the go, if you scan that QR code, you don't have to. Thanks to the Ray Girl, who sponsors our pod page, podpage.com/the-truenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words, kids and cubs. Go there, click subscribe, and when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. Now, the QR code that appeared first in the top corner there, that will bring you to our YouTube page, True North Acre Beaver Media, where Kits, Elaine, and Cassie are waving you in and asking you to smash with our buttons. Remember, if you're watching, if you do it now, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave. So please do smash with our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. They're there waiting for you. We very much appreciate it when you do that. It gets us a little happy. Plus, it really does help us with the algorithm. And I noticed we were celebrating having crossed 18,000. It seems that maybe one or two people have left us because we're still at 17,900 again. So that's, while a little sad, on the upside, we get to celebrate reaching 18,000 all over again when it happens. See, there's always a silver lining. We get to have two parties instead of one. So please do like, share, and subscribe. We very much appreciate when you do, and it does help us. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, Kits and Cubs, there's other ways that you can, because we do incur some costs to bring this show to you. And if you would be able to help us with that because you like what we do and you would like to encourage us to do more, we would be very grateful to receive your support. And you can do that by making a contribution to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, also called our tip jar. If you do that, you can do your part to make sure that you keep your favorite beaver nice and moist. I don't know how much more mileage I can get out of that one. But if you do like to have some moist beaver on a daily basis, then please, 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 Kits and Cubs, make a donation to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund. Let us know that you would like us to do more. And we do have some thank yous to give specifically to Kit Wishful, who very, very, very generously on our pub cast day treated us to our meals and our first drink. And we didn't find out until the show was over when the bill came. So thank you so very much for that generosity. A beaver with a happy belly and a grizzly with a good pint is a very good thing. So you made that happen, and we are very, very, very grateful for you having done so. And we will have another thank you, because I have to bring up the email for somebody who made a donation to us via our coffee page, and we will do that in the Easter egg. If you would like if you would like to support us that way, that QR code that just appeared will bring you to our coffee page. Again, that's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And if you could make a donation there, we would really appreciate it. And we know that times are tough. It doesn't matter what the amount is. It can be a small amount. Every drop and tittle adds to the pot. Every bit helps. So we appreciate it. If you are not able to contribute financially, because again, times are tough, please don't worry. The gifts of your participation and attention are the ones that matter the most to us. And anything that you could do to help promote the show by sharing it also helps us a lot. And we are grateful for everything that you do. So please write to us, because we want to hear from you. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is where you can send that. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Also, if you want to donate, is where you can send a transaction that is purely 100% Canadian by dealing through your bank and avoiding the CE Tech Pros. And we get 100% of your donation as well, which is a nice bonus. But if you want to write to us and let us know what you think, or have suggestions for guests, anything, have a question for us. Again, we're looking to do a Q&A show, and but we need questions if you want that. So please submit them to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. You can also reach us on our socials at trueeager, at Blue Sky, and on the Shitter. Our original home on the web, True North Eager Beaver on Facebook. And if you happen to be with the Dan Fam right now or listening later on our YouTube channel, right down here in the comments section, please let us know what you think. We do read everything, even though we're not able to get back to everyone. Because democracy is something that you do, Kits and Cubs, remember there's a Liberal leadership race in the province of Quebec, and the results will be coming in June. Make sure that you are registered to vote there if the voting period is still, the registration period is still open. If you are in Manitoba, the Progressive Conservatives have a Liberal leadership coming up. The results will be announced on the 26th, but if you are voting by mail, the deadline is the 22nd, so please be sure to get your votes in so that you can be counted. And of course, we have a federal election going on. So please research your candidates, volunteer, phone bank if you can. If Elections Canada is still looking for some people, please put your hand up. It's a really good idea. I do recommend that everybody volunteer at a polling station at least once in their lifetime to see democracy being done in real time and see just how excited people are to actually exercise their franchise. It's good for the soul. All right. Let's see. What do we have here? Words of wisdom, I guess. Again, I'm a little low on wisdom, kids and cubs. So I will just say, debates are coming. If you are one of those people who still haven't made up their mind yet and are looking to see what's happening in the debates, or you've pretty much made your mind, but you're just looking for the debates to see if to confirm whether or not you've made the right decision, please do take some time to watch them. They can be boring, they can be dry, yes, but they do allow you to cast a fully informed vote, and that is a gift that you give yourself ultimately, right? Particularly, I think I see Saucy mention it a lot, that famous quote about a vote not being a Valentine, but a chess piece that you use in order to change the world. So you have your chess piece, and make sure that you move it in the best way possible. So treat yourself. Right? Don't look at it as an obligation. Look at it as a treat that you are giving yourself so that you can practice democracy to its fullest extent and get the most out of your vote. All right? Kids and cubs, it can be a tough world out there. So please, please, please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, I guess I have to tell myself that I need to cue the cock. So, Mr. Beaver, please. Cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kids and cubs, there we go. I found it. It's a big thank you that goes to Kid Wendy, who said, "Great campaign coverage, gents. Keep it up. Appreciate your time and efforts keeping us au courant. Cheers." Kid Wendy, thank you so much for your enthusiastic expression of support for the show. All right, kids and cubs, have a most beaverific day, and we will see you again tomorrow. Mwah. Gros bisous.